switch gears just a little bit. The governor has recently issued 2 directives, one via EO, one was just a straight directive, one on DEI, and one on recognizing the biological reality that there are only 2 sexes, male and female. How is your agency handling compliance with both of those directives from the governor?
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Well, our agency has been looking at our processes and our websites and all of those things to make sure that we're in compliance. Brian and his staff, his HR staff, and all of those things have looked and continuing to look since the order was issued at the end of January, and to make changes where we need to make changes.
To just like website wording or actual structural or policy changes?
Just double checking what's currently there and just see if there's something that needs to be changed, and including if there's any processes and procedures that need to be changed.
Have the websites been changed lately?
I don't know.
No.
Okay.
With the respect to the recent executive orders, we looked at our website to ensure that we were in compliance with those orders. We found nothing out of compliance. That said, I think the chairman was referencing, with respect to our workforce policy.
Yeah.
We follow SAO guidelines in developing the workforce plan. It recommends to state agencies to review that annually for our hiring practices. With recent changes, whether it's through executive order or possible legislative changes, we always want to actively compare what we're doing with respect to workforce planning to ensure that we're in compliance both with any governor executive orders and new laws.
So since you brought up the workforce planning issues and hiring, I mean, is there any, because the executive order from the governor was rather clear, he doesn't want any DEI-based employment decisions being made. Are things like DEI diversity focuses being employed or utilized at your agency when it comes to employment determinations?
We are in complete compliance with that.
So it's not happening?
No, sir.
Okay. I've got your most recent strategic plan in front of me, and I want to read you a couple sentences. It says, you're talking about, it's a whole section on workforce under strategic development. And it says, I'm going to read a couple sentences. Furthermore, as society in general becomes more diverse, the TWDB workforce must mirror this diversity. That sounds like your strategic plan is contradicting the testimony here.
Right. So that strategic plan was developed about a year, maybe a year and 3 months ago, I think it was adopted last summer for kind of fiscal years 25 through 29.
Yeah, this is your plan for 25 through 29.
Yes, sir. And so with more recent executive orders, should those contradict what is in that strategic plan, specifically the workforce plan? Again, that annual review, we're already looking at how we can comply with current practices, updating those plans so that, again, we're in line with any executive orders or possible legislative changes.
Hear that, although I'm a little confused by it because you were pretty unequivocal a second ago when I asked if there was any DEI diversity component to your current employment practices. You said no very clearly, but I'm reading from your strategic plan for the years 25, starting in 25, going through 29, and it is explicit. As society becomes more diverse, the TWDB workforce must mirror this diversity. I don't know how else to read that. So, or are you saying that, like, as of today, you're no longer using race in employment determinations, but you were when this plan was finalized very recently?
Well, and I wanted to add, Brian, if you don't may, and maybe our HR person can come up. As I understand, there's certain requirements of the labor code that we have to, in statute, that we have to ensure that we're meeting as well. And some of those, I believe, kind of ensure that some of that language that you're reading, Representative, pairs up with, as I understand, the labor code, and then there's a certification process associated with that. So
There are other parts of your website and documents that do
Okay.
make reference to certain statutes, but
Yes.
this section doesn't.
Okay.
And this is sort of an editorialization on behalf of your leadership of a policy determination.
Well, maybe Edna Jackson, who's one of our deputy executive administrators, can discuss that. But I will say, just in general, I would think it's important for us to emphasize, it's important for the Texas Water Development Board to comply with the law. It's important for the Texas Water Development Board to comply with the governor's executive order. And if there's things that aren't where they need to be in our policies and procedures, we need to take a look at it, and we will. And so I'll just
That I agree with. And I'm just saying, from a plain language reading of your
I understand.
document, I don't know any other way to read this than that race was being used
and so
in employment determinations.
well, maybe if I can turn it over to
Yeah,
Ms. Jackson. Thank you so
absolutely.
much for the question.
Madam
Yeah, of
Chair,
course.
Madam Chair, real quick.
Yes.
Just state your name, Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
State your name for the record, who you represent. And then, Madam Chair, thank you, Ms. Jackson, for
Certainly. Edna Jackson,
being here.
Texas Water Development Board. I'm the Deputy Executive Administrator of Operations and Administration.
Thank you.
So one of the things we as state agencies are required to do is comply with Texas Labor Code. In fact, we just finished this week. Every agency has to go up for review by the Texas Workforce Commission Civil Rights Division. So our audit, we were up this
Yep.
year, it's once every 6 years, and so we just received our certification this week, actually. But one of the things that we're required to do per the TWC, Texas Workforce Commission, is review, do an analysis of our current workforce and this is coming from Texas Labor Code, compared to the number of African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and females in each job category. And so what we try to do is basically just try to increase the exposure so that we can get more qualified applicants in that category. That's all we can do. And at that point, it's standard hiring practices moving forward. We're not giving we're complying with the governor's executive order. And that's really all we do in our recruitment plan and our workforce plan, just in general.
Is there
But
anything-
we do that per that labor code.
Yeah, and I've got issues with some of the way that Texas Workforce Commission, and I had some very strong questions for them earlier this week. But I want to go back to this because one thing that I do hear commonly is that, well, we're required to do this. Yes, we're looking at race, but we're required to. Yes, we're looking at gender. Yes, we're looking at ethnicity, but we have to. First of all, I don't know that that's true. I mean, discrimination on the basis of race is unconstitutional at the federal level. So I don't buy these answers. But I would ask it, since it was said to me just a second ago that there is some code out there that you think maybe labor code or something that might be requiring
code.
the race-based employment policies that is articulated in the plain reading of your strategic plan. Is there anything in the code that requires the water board to, these are your words, to mirror the diversity of society in general? Is there anything that requires you to do that?
There's not, to my knowledge, anything that requires you to mirror it. I think the way the language is, it says we have to address the underutilization where it's underutilized in certain categories.
But you answered the question honestly, and I appreciate that. But what you're saying is something that I know is true as well. I'm unaware of any statute or regulation that requires your agency to engage in race-based employment determinations that require you to mirror the diversity of society in general. But that is literally, these are the words on your strategic plan. I'm going to read it one more time. The the TWDB workforce must mirror this diversity, and the first part of the sentence you say this diversity as society in general becomes more diverse. So why do you have this on your strategic plan, and have you in fact been engaged in race-based employment determinations to mirror society in general?
No, we have not been in any race-based employment practices, not at all.
Even though your
And we
strategic
can
plan, your strategic plan says that you must do it.
we can definitely look at, take a look at that language in that
I'm not
strategic plan, but
reading it to
that,
you.
but that is not our practice, no.
Okay. Okay. How do you, you can understand the frustration because, I mean, clearly a lot of work went into the strategic plan. It states that you are engaged in race-based employment determinations above and beyond what any statute or regulation from the state or the federal level, and I would believe this is facially unconstitutional because we should not be discriminating on the basis of race for employment decisions, certainly not in jobs that are subsidized by my taxpayers. Just one last question then on the hubs. The comptroller of the state of Texas, I have recently been made aware to my disgust and horror, sends out minimum what are effectively DEI thresholds for all state agencies when issuing government contracts. Can you talk to me about your compliance? How does your agency handle these minimum DEI-based hub standards that are issued to you from the Texas comptroller?
So we participate in various job fair, or excuse me, spot bid fairs. We use texasbuy.org to access a variety of kind of state contracts, state purchasing agreements to ensure that any of our purchases are at the lowest cost possible. The comptroller sets certain kind of hub-related targets, and we report based on a variety, all of our, across the spectrum of our spending, kind of which of those vendors qualify under those various hub categories. I'll turn it over to our.
Do you know, and thank you for that, do you know how much you've spent on those hub contracts?
I think I'll defer to our interim CFO if you don't mind.
Yes, no, of course, thank you.
And
Thank
Georgia
you.
has to introduce herself.
Yeah. Gotta follow the rules
Which
here,
agency?
Vice Chair. Thank you.
Yes, for the record.
Thank you. For the record, Georgia Sanchez, Interim Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez.
Thanks.
Our report, our last report for fiscal year '24, we had spent $3.1 million with hubs out of $16.3 million.
How much? Three point what?
$3.1 million, $3,122,852.
So over $3 million on contracts that almost certainly were awarded, at least in part, on the basis of race or gender.
We solicit vendors according to procurement codes. We use the certified master bidders list, and it includes most, if not all, of the hubs that have registered when we're conducting competitive procurements, and that's just required by the statute. So there may be at least one or more hubs through our competitive process that's receiving the information. But we do not award points or select the contract we're not allowed to give points for being a hub, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It just, and I understand being on your side, I mean, the regulation does come down from the comptroller that does set thresholds for DEI-based contracts. And it sounds like, if I heard you right, over $3 million, though, were awarded in accordance with those, DEI-based hub targets. Is that right?
The way I read the 3.1 million respectfully is that they have the label of a hub, but not that they were receiving the award because they were a hub. Does that make sense?
I understand the articulation. I'm still greatly troubled that that's a factor at all. But I appreciate your answers on those questions. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Just to make sure, Ms. Jackson and Ms. Sanchez, if you haven't submitted the WAF, please do so for us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me get Representative Berry, and then I'll come back to Representative Collier. Representative Collier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative Berry, I want to thank you for keeping this committee focused on the necessary areas that we should be focused on in this committee, and that's what's in this document, these documents that we're trying to review and consider. So I appreciate you. It's very clear that you see everyone as one race, the human race. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I want to go to some of the questions that were asked earlier. And I guess, what's your name, Ms.
Sanchez.
Sanchez?
Georgia Sanchez.
Okay, Ms. Sanchez. Do you understand that the U.S. Census Bureau identifies 5 races, a minimum of 5, white, black, or African American, American Indian, or Alaska Native, Asian, and Native Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander? That's according to the U.S. Census Bureau. They also recognize a 6th category, some other race, for people who don't identify with any of the other categories. My question to you, what is the definition of a hub? Or let me ask it another way. Are veterans included in the hub definition?
I think our staff is tracking that down, Madam Representative.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we have an understanding, because a veteran could be any race. And so I just want to make sure that we understand when we're talking about how much you have spent on hubs, that we have an understanding of what a hub, like who is eligible to be a hub. Like what are the requirements to be a hub?
So certified hub groups for hub credit would be Asian Pacific, Black, Hispanic, Native American, service disabled veteran, and woman.
So they're not necessarily based on race.
Per the Comptroller of Public Accounts certified groups for that credit, it would include service disabled veteran, no racial designation for that category.
And women?
American women.
So women, period.
Yes, ma'am.
No
Women.
race associated with the women.
Correct.
So if you have spent, I don't know, $2 million or whatever it was that you spent, it would be in one of those categories.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
We have breakouts with respect to veteran from that 3.1 million. There were no service disabled veteran expenditures. That said, there was for the woman hub group that accounted for a vast majority of that 3.1 million. It was about 2.25 million.
So 2.25 of the 3 million went to women. There was no race attached to that. It was just women.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. See, here's the thing. I'm tired of having to justify my blackness. And if someone feels inferior to me because I am black, then that is a matter that is something that has to do with them, not me. And to have to watch 2 black women have to defend 246 years of systemic racism, to try to defend the need to correct 246 years of systemic racism when we had slavery is offensive. It's offensive to me, and it's offensive to all black people. And so I want to thank you so much for doing your job based on your qualifications as a person. And I appreciate you, and I see you. I see you, Ms. Sanchez. So thank you. I appreciate you. And I said that for not just myself, I said it for all black women and all women, because sometimes we all get the short end of the stick on that. Thank you. I have no further questions or comments for right now.
It's okay. It's okay.
So put together.
okay. It's okay. Madam Chair, you deserve all the respect. You take all the time you need.
I'm ready. Thank you.
You merit this position. You and many who have fought long and hard to be in the positions of authority that you deserve to be in. And we've reached a goddamn limit already to the attacks on people's character, on people's qualifications, based only on one single thing: the color of their skin. We are all Americans. We're proud Americans. We're proud Americans. We pledge to the United States of America, that flag that belongs to all of us.
Thank you,
But
Mr.
the
Chairman.
rhetoric, the comments, the innuendo, the attacks on people's character has to stop. Many of these public servants have earned the right to be in these positions. This must end. This must end. I'm proud of all of you that have come to this dais to come testify, whether you're African American, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're Anglo, whether you're Asian. We are proud of each and every one of you that comes before this committee. This committee, I respect everybody on this dais. I give every opportunity for folks to say what they need to say. I'm not trying to control what anybody says. They can say their piece for their clips. That's fine. But we will not, and I will not tolerate attacks on people's character. These are public servants. They do the best for the state of Texas. They try to do what's best for the state of Texas. And it must end. And I call on my colleagues to quit these attacks. Madam Chair, I like saying that. Madam Chair, you have the floor.
I don't usually get emotional, Representative Collier. I just want to talk about me just for a second. March 1st will be 33 years working for the state. 33 years. I have 2 engineering degrees, 2 from the University of Texas at Austin, 1 in aerospace engineering and the other in civil engineering. I have always been honored by the governor of Texas. It was a deep honor for me to be appointed to the board, to be confirmed by the Senate, to be appointed as chair. I've always been grateful to the governor, always. But what have I done? I have protected the drinking water supply
of 31 million Texans. I've sat across the table from IBWC in Mexico and made sure they delivered water to Texas, not once as a principal negotiator, but over 11 years. The stuff they have going on now, a million acre feet behind, that didn't happen under my watch. It did not happen. Wastewater treatment facilities, I was responsible for issuing 600 of them a year. There's 3,500 in Texas. There's 7,000 drinking water facilities in Texas. It was my responsibility to make sure that they were done. They not only protected the environment, but they protected the economy of Texas. I sat across the table from EPA, from IBWC, from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, fighting the fight to make sure Texas was protected. Even when they disagreed, I went to bat for Texas. And it has been my life's honor. My parents worked 7 days a week to send me to UT. My father is, he passed, is a Korean War veteran. And so it's my deep honor to serve as chair of the Texas Water Development Board. I am never this emotional. And I respect the legislature so much. Brian will tell you, I'm the first to say that is not in the statute. We cannot do that. The first to tell you, the first to say it. I was the one when I was at TCQ who developed the operating permit program for Texas major sources in Texas to protect the interests of Texas. And so it's always been my deep honor. And I don't mind tough questions. I never get this emotional. I can't even believe I'm saying all of this right now. And what have I done? I enjoy being a public servant. It is my life's calling. And it's very important to me. It is very important to me, the disadvantaged communities, the rural communities. I was the one who protected 100 water systems from running out of water during the 2011 drought. They had less than 180 days worth of water. I was the one who did that. I was the one who, and my staff, of course, who worked with the city of Wichita Falls because they didn't have any water. They put in the first direct potable reuse under my leadership. That was me. And so for all those reasons, I have to believe that's why the governor chose me, and I'm so proud of it, and I thank him for that.
Let me remind Madam Chair, who appointed you to that position?
The governor,
And what is his name?
Greg Abbott. And I'm very thankful to him. And I have such respect for the legislature, every member of the legislature, such respect. And so I thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman and committee members. If you have any other questions for the Water Development Board, we are here to serve you. We're here to serve the people of Texas. And I take that very seriously, because I have seen what happens when people don't have water, don't have enough capacity for water. I have seen what happens to our rivers and streams. I've seen what happens when folks are in enforcement. I've seen when they don't have enough money. So we are here to help you. We're here to answer the tough questions. I don't mind the tough questions. That's what we do. And that's who we are. We're here as public servants. And that is all I have to say.
You matter. It's the chair's prerogative. We're going to stand at ease for a few minutes. We'll come back in a few minutes.